close your eyes and let yourself drift back through time to a world of mist-shrouded fjords and longships cutting through icy waters, to an age when warriors from the north would change the course of history. Tonight, we journey to the Viking Age, a time of exploration, of conquest, of discovery, a time when seafarers from Scandinavia ventured to lands unknown, crossed oceans that terrified others, and left their mark from the shores of North America to the gates of Constantinople. Settle into comfort. Let your breathing slow. Release the tension from your body and open your imagination to a story that spans 3 centuries, from the late 8th century to the mid-11th century, a time we remember as the Age of the Vikings. This is not merely a tale of raiders and warriors. This is the story of farmers and poets, of explorers and traders, of storytellers who preserved their legends in sagas that echo through time. Let this story carry you into deep, peaceful, restorative sleep. Imagine the land of Scandinavia in the year 790, a harsh land of mountains and forests, of deep fjords cutting through rocky coastlines, of long dark winters and brief, brilliant summers. The people here are farmers, fishermen, craftsmen. They live in longhouses built of wood and turf. They grow barley and rye, raise cattle and sheep. They forge iron into tools and weapons. They weave wool into cloth. But this land is poor in farmable soil. The growing season is short. Families are large. Sons inherit the father's land. But there is never enough to divide. And so, some look to the sea that has always been part of their lives. The sea that provides fish and pathways between settlements scattered along the coast. These people have always been sailors. But now, they are developing something new, something that will change everything. The longship. Picture it. A vessel unlike any other, long and narrow, with a shallow draft, that can sail in deep ocean waters, yet navigate shallow rivers. A ship with both oars, for rowing when winds fail, and a large square sail, to catch the wind and fly across the waves. The prow rises high, often carved into the shape of a dragon or serpent, meant to frighten enemies and honor the gods. The hull is clinker-built, overlapping planks, flexible enough to bend with the waves, yet strong enough to withstand the fiercest storms. These ships are beautiful, works of art, but they are also tools that will carry the Norsemen to distant shores. The Norse people worship many gods: Odin the All-Father, god of wisdom and war; Thor, the thunder god, with his mighty hammer, Mjolnir; Freya, goddess of love and fertility. These gods live in Asgard, connected to the human world of Midgard by the rainbow bridge Bifrost. The Norse believe in fate, in the Norns, 3 sisters who weave the threads of destiny. They believe in honor, in courage, in facing death without fear. For a warrior who dies bravely in battle will be chosen by the Valkyries and taken to Valhalla, the hall of slain heroes, where they feast and fight until Ragnarok, the end of all things. This belief in fate, in glory, in a good death, will drive the Vikings to acts of extraordinary courage and terrible violence. The winter of 789, long nights, snow covers the ground. In the longhouses, men sit by the fire, sharpening weapons, mending nets, telling stories, of lands across the sea. There are rumors, tales brought by traders, of a land to the west, across the North Sea. A land where monasteries sit undefended, filled with gold and silver, with jeweled crosses and sacred books. A land where people have grown soft, trusting in the protection of their Christian God. The young men listen. Their eyes gleam. Why should they struggle to scratch a living from stony fields, when wealth beyond imagining lies just across the water? The chieftains, powerful men who command loyalty, begin to plan. Ships are readied, weapons are forged, sacrifices are made to Odin, asking for favorable winds, for victory, for glory. Spring comes, the ice melts, the winds shift, and the longships, sleek and deadly, push out from the fjords into the open sea. The men at the oars are farmers and fishermen, but they are also warriors, trained from boyhood in the use of sword and axe, in the art of war. They wear simple clothing, wool tunics, leather belts. Some have chainmail shirts, passed down through generations. Most have helmets, conical iron caps, without the horns, that later legends will wrongly give them. They row in rhythm. The ship moves swiftly. The sail fills with wind, and they fly across the grey waters toward a destiny that will make their names synonymous with terror. June 8th, 793. The island of Lindisfarne, off the northeast coast of England. A holy place, home to a monastery, founded more than a century earlier by St. Aidan. The monks rise early for morning prayers. The sun is just appearing over the calm sea. It promises to be a beautiful day, peaceful, holy. They have no warning, no idea that their world is about to end. Out of the mist, longships appear, 4, maybe 5. They beach on the shore. Men pour out, tall, fierce, armed with axes and swords, shouting in a strange tongue. The monks are terrified. They have never seen anything like this. They run, some toward the church, hoping for sanctuary. Others try to flee across the island, but there is no escape. The raiders are fast, merciless. They cut down anyone who resists, drag others from the church. The abbot pleads with them, in Latin, in English, but the Norsemen do not understand, or do not care. They ransack the monastery, smash open chests, tear down hangings, looking for anything of value. They find gold, silver chalices and plates, jeweled book covers. They take it all. They find the monks' stores, grain, salted fish, ale. They load it onto the ships. Some monks are killed. Others are taken, to be sold as slaves, in markets across the sea. The monastery, one of the holiest sites in England, is left in ruins, desecrated, violated. The survivors, where they can finally speak, describe the horror in trembling voices. Word spreads across England, across all of Christian Europe. A new terror has come from the north. Pagans, heathens, who show no respect for God, for the church, for anything civilized peoples hold sacred. The scholar, Alcuin, writing from the court of Charlemagne, laments, "Never before has such terror appeared in Britain. Behold the church of St. Cuthbert, spattered with the blood of the priests of God, despoiled of all its ornaments." But for the Norsemen, the raid is a triumph. They return home, laden with treasure, with stories of easy conquest, and the news spreads through every fjord, every settlement in Norway, Denmark, Sweden. Wealth, glory, adventure, all to be had for those brave enough to sail west, into the unknown. The raids continue, year after year. More ships, more warriors, monasteries along the coasts of Britain, Ireland, France, are hit again and again. The pattern is always the same. Strike fast. Take everything of value. Leave before any defense can be organized. The Vikings are not conquerors, not yet. They are raiders, pirates. They have no interest in holding land, only in seizing treasure and returning home before winter. But the monasteries, isolated, undefended, are too easy. The Vikings grow bolder. They begin raiding inland, following rivers, attacking towns, even small kingdoms. Paris, Hamburg, even Rome itself will feel the fury of the north. The Christian kingdoms are unprepared. Their armies are designed for slow-moving campaigns, for sieges, for battles between armored knights. They cannot respond to these swift sea-borne attacks. By the time forces are gathered, the Vikings are gone. Back to their ships, back to the sea, and the fear grows. Monks pray. A furore Normanorum libera nos, Domine. From the fury of the Northmen, deliver us, O Lord. The Viking Age has truly begun. To understand the Vikings, you must understand their relationship with the sea. The sea is not their enemy. It is their highway, their livelihood, their gateway to the world. From childhood, Norse boys learn to row, to sail, to read the signs of weather. They learn to navigate by the sun, by the stars, by the flight of birds, by the color and smell of the water. They develop skills that seem almost supernatural to those who sail with maps and compasses. A Norse navigator can find his way across thousands of miles of open ocean, using only his senses, his experience, his knowledge passed down through generations. The longship is the key to all they achieve. It is not a large vessel, perhaps 60 feet long, 15 feet wide. It carries 30 to 60 men. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in speed, in flexibility, in seaworthiness. The ship can be rowed when becalmed or going upriver. The oarsmen sit on sea chests that contain their personal belongings. When the wind is favorable, the sail is raised. A large square of wool, often dyed red or striped. The ship can reach speeds of 15 knots or more, flying across the waves. The shallow draft means the ship can beach almost anywhere. No need for ports, for docks. Just drive the ship onto a sandy shore and leap out. This is crucial for raids, for exploration, for survival. But the ship has limitations. It is open to the elements. No cabin, no shelter. The crew endures rain, spray, cold. They sleep under leather covers, eat dried fish and hard bread, drink ale or water. They bail constantly as water sloshes over the low sides. On long voyages to Iceland, to Greenland, the conditions are brutal. Men die from exposure, from storms, from starvation, but still they sail because the rewards, the adventure, the glory are worth the risk. The Norse are not just raiders, they are traders. They establish trade routes that span from the Arctic Circle to the Mediterranean, from the Irish Sea to the Caspian. They trade furs, walrus ivory, amber, slaves. They bring back silver, silk, spices, wine. In the east, Swedish Vikings, known as Varangians or Russ, travel down the great rivers of what is now Russia. They establish trading posts, Novgorod, Kiev. They reach Constantinople, capital of the Byzantine Empire, where they serve as elite guards for the emperor himself. In the west, Norwegian and Danish Vikings raid and trade. In Britain, Ireland, France, some begin to settle, to claim land, to establish farms, to become more than just raiders, to become colonists. The Irish coast is dotted with Norse settlements. Dublin, Waterford, Limerick, these begin as raiding bases, but grow into towns, trading centres, places where Norse and Irish mix, intermarry, exchange ideas. In England, the Vikings establish the Danelaw, a region where Danish law and customs prevail, where Norse settlers farm the land, worship their gods, live side by side with the Anglo-Saxons. Not all encounters are violent. Many are peaceful. Trade benefits both sides. Cultural exchange enriches both. The Vikings adopt Christianity. Eventually, the Christians adopt Norse words, Norse customs. The languages blend. Modern English contains hundreds of words of Norse origin: sky, egg, window, husband. Even the word they all come from Old Norse. The Vikings are adaptable. They learn quickly. They are curious about the world. They want to see what lies beyond the horizon. What treasures, what lands, what wonders await. And this curiosity, this spirit of exploration, will lead them to the edge of the known world and beyond. The year 874, a Norwegian chieftain named Ingolfur Arnason stands on the deck of his ship looking toward a land he has never seen, a land discovered years earlier by accident when a sailor was blown off course. Iceland, a volcanic island in the North Atlantic, barren, forbidding, but also empty, unclaimed, free. Ingolfur is fleeing. Norway, the king, Harald Fairhair, is consolidating power, demanding loyalty, taxing the independent chieftains. Many refuse to bow. They choose exile over submission, and so Ingolfur and hundreds like him set sail with their families, their livestock, their possessions, everything they can fit in their ships, sailing west into the unknown, in search of a new home. The voyage is perilous. The North Atlantic, in summer, can be deceptively calm, but storms can arise without warning. Waves like mountains, wind that tears the sail, rain that drenches everything. Ships are lost, people drown, but enough survive. Ingolfur approaches the coast. He performs a traditional ritual. He throws the carved pillars from his high seat, the symbol of his authority, overboard, and vows to settle wherever the gods cause them to wash ashore. Servants are sent to search the coast. It takes years, but finally, the pillars are found in a bay with steam rising from hot springs. Ingolfur names the place Reykjavik, Smoky Bay. It will become the capital of Iceland. The settlers spread out across the island. They claim land by walking the boundaries, carrying fire. Each family establishes a farm in the pattern they knew in Norway: longhouses, barns, pastures for sheep and cattle. Iceland is harsh. The winter is long and dark, the summer brief, the soil volcanic, difficult to farm. But there are fish in abundance, seals, whales, birds and eggs on the cliffs. And most importantly, there is freedom. More ships arrive, year after year. By the year 930, Iceland's habitable regions are fully settled, perhaps 20,000 people, living in relative harmony. Despite having no king, no central authority. Instead, they create something new, the Althing, an assembly where free men gather, once a year, in summer, at a place called Thingvellir, assembly fields. Here, laws are recited, from memory, by the law speaker. Disputes are settled, by arbitration, or if necessary, by combat. Alliances are formed, marriages arranged, trade conducted. The Althing is one of the world's oldest parliaments, a system of government based not on monarchy, but on consensus, on the rule of law. It is remarkable, for its time, a democratic institution in an age of kings and emperors. Iceland becomes a crucible of Norse culture. Here, the old traditions are preserved. Poets, called skalds, compose elaborate verses. Storytellers preserve the sagas, epic tales of gods and heroes, of feuds and vengeance, of love and betrayal. These sagas will be written down centuries later and become some of the most important literary works of medieval Europe. The prose Edda, the poetic Edda, the saga of the Volsungs, Njal's saga. They preserve the Norse worldview, their values, their voice. But Iceland is not the end of Norse exploration. It is merely a stepping stone. Beyond Iceland lies more ocean, more islands, more lands waiting to be discovered. The year 982, a red-haired Norseman named Erik Thorvaldsson, known as Erik the Red, sits in his longhouse in Iceland, brooding. He has been outlawed for 3 years for killing a man. In a dispute over land, he must leave Iceland. But where can he go? Back to Norway means facing enemies there. Forward is only ocean. But Erik remembers stories told by sailors of land sighted to the west. A sailor named Gunnbjorn was blown off course years ago and saw mountains and glaciers in the distance. Before he managed to turn back, Erik decides he will find that land, explore it, and if it is habitable, claim it for himself. He gathers a crew, loads his ship with provisions, tools, livestock, and sails west into the unknown, into waters no one has deliberately crossed. The voyage takes days. The ocean is cold, grey, icebergs float like mountains of glass. Fog obscures vision, but Erik's navigation skills, honed over a lifetime at sea, guide him true. And then, land, towering cliffs, glaciers grinding slowly toward the sea, a coast, forbidding, inhospitable. But Erik sails around the southern tip and finds, on the western coast, fjords, green valleys, grass, even trees, birch and willow, small, but trees nonetheless. He explores for 3 years, the term of his exile. He finds good grazing land, fresh water, abundant seals, whales, fish. He sees no people. This land is empty, waiting to be claimed. When his exile ends, Erik returns to Iceland and tells everyone about the new land. But he is clever. He knows, if he describes it as harsh and forbidding, few will come. So he calls it Greenland. A green land, a fertile land, a land of opportunity. The name is somewhat deceptive, but it works. In 985, Erik leads 25 ships loaded with settlers, families, livestock, everything needed to establish a colony. The voyage is brutal. Storms scatter the fleet. Some ships turn back. Some are lost. Only 14 ships reach Greenland, but those who arrive establish 2 settlements. The eastern settlement, and the Western settlement. On the southwestern coast, life in Greenland is harder than Iceland. The growing season, even shorter. But the settlers adapt. They focus on animal husbandry, sheep, goats, cattle. They hunt seals and walrus for meat, oil, and ivory. Walrus ivory becomes a valuable export, traded as far as Europe, for goods the colony needs. The Greenlanders establish trade routes back to Iceland, to Norway. They remain connected to the Norse world. They convert to Christianity around the year 1000, build churches, even a cathedral. They thrive for centuries, but they are isolated, vulnerable to changes in climate, to shifts in trade. Eventually, centuries later, the settlements will fail, the people will vanish. No one knows exactly why. Climate change, perhaps, or the Little Ice Age, or loss of contact with Europe, or conflicts with the Inuit, who arrive later from the north. But in the year 1000, the Greenland colony is thriving, and some are looking even further west, to lands glimpsed on clear days from the high cliffs of the western coast. Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, stands at the prow of his ship, looking west from Greenland toward a horizon that promises something more. He has heard stories. A sailor named Bjarni Herjolfsson was blown off course years ago and saw land further west, forested land with beaches and rolling hills. But Bjarni, eager to reach Greenland, did not land, did not explore. He simply noted the sighting and continued on. But Leif is curious. What if there is land there, good land, with timber? Greenland has almost no trees. Timber must be imported at great expense. If there is a land with forests, it would be invaluable. Around the year 1000, Leif buys Bjarni's ship, gathers a crew of 35 men, and sails west, following Bjarni's description, retracing his accidental route. In reverse, they sail for days, the ocean grey and cold. Then, land, rocky, barren, covered with flat stones. Leif names it Helluland, stone slabland, modern-day Baffin Island. They continue south, more land, forested, sandy beaches. Leif calls it Markland, forest land, modern-day Labrador. Still they sail, further south, and then they find it, a place unlike anything they have ever seen. Green meadows, forests of tall trees, rivers teeming with salmon, grapevines growing wild, or perhaps not grapes, but some other berry. The saga writers will call them grapes, and Leif will name this land Vinland, Wineland. They spend the winter there, building houses, exploring. The weather is mild, milder than Greenland, even milder than Iceland. The grass stays green. Even in winter, they find game, deer, birds. The salmon are so large, they have never seen the like. Leif and his men are the first Europeans to set foot in North America. 500 years before Columbus, they have crossed the Atlantic, found a new world. But they are not conquerors. They are explorers, traders. They gather timber, grapevines, furs, and in spring they load their ship and return to Greenland with tales of wonder. Other expeditions follow. Leif's brother Thorvald sails to Vinland, but encounters the native inhabitants, people the Norse call Skrælings, perhaps ancestors of the Inuit, or the Beothuk, or Micmac. The first meetings are tense. Thorvald's men kill 8 natives in a skirmish. In retaliation, The natives attack. Thorvald is struck by an arrow and dies, the first European to die in the New World. Another expedition, led by Thorfinn Karlsefni, attempts to establish a permanent settlement. They bring livestock, women, families. They intend to stay. For 3 years, they live in Vinland. They trade with the natives, cloth, milk, for furs and meat. A son is born, Snorri Thorfinnsson, the first European child, born in the Americas. But tensions grow. The natives are wary, sometimes hostile. The Norse are few, outnumbered. Fighting breaks out. People die, on both sides. Thorfinn realizes they cannot hold this land, not without more settlers, more support, and Greenland, Iceland, Norway are too far, the journey too dangerous, the colony too small, and so, reluctantly, they abandon Vinland, load their ships, and sail back to Greenland. The Norse will never return to North America, not for centuries. The sagas will preserve the memory, but many will think them just stories, legends, until archaeologists in the 20th century find evidence. At Lanceau Meadows, in Newfoundland, Norse artifacts, foundations of buildings, proof that the Vikings truly reached the New World. But for the Vikings of the 11th century, Vinland remains a distant dream, a land of wonder, just beyond reach. While some Norse sought new lands across the sea, others turned their gaze on richer prizes, the kingdoms of England. For decades, the raids had continued, hit-and-run attacks, smash and grab, but the English kingdoms had begun to adapt, building fortresses, burhs, organizing fyrd, militia armies, making it harder for raiders to strike unopposed. But in 865, everything changed. A massive Viking force landed in England, not to raid, but to conquer, to claim land, to stay. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle calls them the Great Heathen Army, led by the sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, a legendary Viking chieftain, Ivar the Boneless, Halfdan, Ubba. Whether Ragnar was real or myth is unclear, but his sons are very real and very dangerous. The army numbers in the thousands, far larger than any previous raid. They have cavalry, infantry, siege equipment. This is not a raid, this is an invasion. They land in East Anglia. The local king, Edmund, tries to appease them, provides horses, supplies, hoping they will leave. But they do not leave. They use East Anglia as a base to strike north. They march into Northumbria, capture York, Jorvik, a major city. They establish it as their capital. The Kingdom of York, under Viking rule. The Northumbrian kings try to retake the city, but are defeated, killed in battle. The great heathen army is unstoppable. They turn south, into Mercia. The kingdom buckles, unable to resist. The Mercian king pays tribute, buys peace. But it is temporary. Then East Anglia. King Edmund faces them in battle, is defeated, captured. According to legend, Ivar offers him his life and kingdom if he will renounce Christ and worship the Norse gods. Edmund refuses. He is a Christian king. He will not forsake his faith. Ivar orders him executed by being shot with arrows until he dies. A martyr, Edmund will be venerated as Saint Edmund, but his kingdom is absorbed into the expanding Viking domain. Only one kingdom remains, Wessex, in the south, ruled by a young king, Alfred. Alfred is only 21 when the great heathen army turns its attention to his kingdom. He has to fight or surrender. He chooses to fight. The battles are brutal, inconclusive. The Vikings win some, Alfred wins some. Neither can deliver a decisive blow. The struggle continues for years. Then, in 878, disaster. A surprise winter attack. The Vikings strike Alfred's stronghold. At Chippenham, Alfred barely escapes. With a handful of loyal men, flees into the marshes of Somerset. For months, Alfred is a fugitive. In his own kingdom, the Vikings control almost all of Wessex. Many think it is over, that all of England will become Danish. But Alfred does not give up. From his refuge in the marshes, he sends out word, rallying his thanes, his warriors, promising that he will fight on. And slowly, men come to join him. By spring, he has an army, small but determined. Alfred marches to meet the Vikings at Edington. May 8th, 78, the battle is fierce. All day they fight. Saxon shield wall against Danish axes. And finally, the Danes break. They flee back to their fortress. At Chippenham, Alfred besieges them, cuts off supplies. After 2 weeks, they surrender. Alfred's terms are generous. The Danish leader, Guthrum, must be baptized. As a Christian, must swear to leave Wessex and rule only. The land's already taken. Guthrum agrees. The baptism is performed. Alfred stands as godfather, and peace is made. The Dane law is formalized. The eastern and northern parts of England, under Danish rule, Wessex, and parts of Mercia, under Saxon rule. A line drawn between two worlds. Alfred will spend the rest of his life fortifying his kingdom, building burhs, organizing defenses, promoting learning. He will be remembered as Alfred the Great, the only English king to earn that title. But the Vikings are now part of England. They will remain for generations, intermarrying, converting to Christianity, becoming English. To understand the Vikings, you must understand their gods, their mythology, the stories that shaped their worldview. The universe, in Norse belief, is a tree, Yggdrasil, the world tree, an immense ash whose branches reach into the sky and whose roots delve into the underworld. 9 realms exist, connected by the tree: Asgard, home of the gods, the Aesir, Odin, Thor, Baldur, and the others. Midgard, the world of men, connected to Asgard by the Rainbow Bridge, Bifrost, which only the gods and chosen heroes can cross. Jotunheim, realm of the giants, ancient enemies of the gods, ever seeking to overthrow them. Niflheim, the realm of ice, and Muspelheim, the realm of fire. Hell, the underworld, where those who die, not in battle, go, ruled by the goddess Hel, half alive, half corpse, and other realms. Alfheim, home of the light elves. Svartalfheim, of the dark elves. Vanaheim, of the Vanir gods, a separate tribe who made peace with the Aesir. Odin, the All-Father, is the king of gods, but he is not all-powerful, not immortal in the way the Christian god is. The Norse gods can die, will die. At Ragnarok, Odin is wise, but he gained wisdom through sacrifice. He hung himself from Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights, pierced by a spear, to gain knowledge of the runes, the magical symbols. He gave 1 eye to drink from Mimir's well, the well of wisdom. He is often depicted as an old wanderer with 1 eye, a broad hat, and a cloak, accompanied by 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin. thought and memory, who fly across the world and bring him news. Odin is god of war, of poetry, of death. Warriors who die bravely are chosen by the Valkyries, warrior women. Who serve Odin, they bring the slain to Valhalla, the hall of the slain, where they feast and fight, preparing for the final battle. Thor is the most beloved god, god of thunder, protector of mankind. He wields Mjolnir, a hammer that returns to his hand. When thrown, he rides a chariot, pulled by two goats, and battles giants, constantly defending Asgard and Midgard. From the forces of chaos, Thor is strong, good-hearted, sometimes quick-tempered, but fundamentally good. The common people love him. Farmers, warriors, sailors, all call upon Thor for protection. Loki is the trickster, son of a giant, but raised among the gods. He is clever, charming, deceitful. He causes trouble, then fixes it. Sometimes, other times, his tricks lead to disaster. Loki will ultimately betray the gods. His actions will lead to the death of Baldur, the most beautiful and beloved of gods, and this will set in motion the events of Ragnarok. The Norse believe that the world is doomed. Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, will come. A great winter will fall. Fimbulwinter, 3 years without summer. Then the giants and the dead will march against Asgard. The gods will fight. Odin will be devoured by the great wolf Fenrir. Thor will slay the world serpent Jormungandr, but die from its venom. Loki will lead the forces of chaos and fall, fighting Heimdall, the guardian of Bifrost. The world will burn, the stars will fall, all will be destroyed. But then, from the ashes, a new world will arise, green and beautiful. 2 humans will survive and repopulate the earth. Some gods will return, and the cycle will begin again. This fatalism, this acceptance of inevitable doom, and yet the determination to fight, to die well, shapes the Viking mentality. Life is hard, death is certain, but glory, honor, courage, these are eternal. Let us step away from battles and exploration and look at daily life. In a Viking community, the longhouse is the center of family life. A large wooden building, perhaps 90 feet long, 20 feet wide, with curved walls and a thatched roof. Inside, the main hall runs the length of the building. A fire burns in the center, the smoke rising to escape through a hole in the roof. Benches line the walls where people sit, work, eat, and sleep. At the far end, the high seat, where the head of the household sits, a position of honor, beside the fire. The warmth and light are greatest here. In smaller rooms, off the main hall, are storage areas, workspaces, perhaps a separate sleeping chamber for the master and his wife. The household is large, not just the immediate family, but servants, slaves, extended family, all living together, working together. The women manage the household. They cook, brew ale, make cheese and butter, weave cloth, sew clothing. They have authority within the home and respect. Even in this patriarchal society, Norse women have more rights than women. In many other cultures of this time, they can own property, inherit land, divorce their husbands. If mistreated, they manage the farm. When men are away, raiding or trading, children are valued. Boys learn skills from their fathers, farming, hunting, fighting. Girls learn from their mothers the domestic arts, but also how to run a household, how to manage resources. Education is largely oral. Stories are told, poetry recited, history preserved, in memory. The skalds, poets, are highly respected. They compose verses, in complex meters, filled with kennings, metaphorical phrases, whale road for sea, battle sweat for blood. Craftsmanship is valued, blacksmiths forge, swords, axes, jewelry, using skills passed down through generations. The best weapons are treasured, given names, considered almost alive. Shipbuilders are master craftsmen. Building a longship requires knowledge of wood, of water, of balance and strength. It is an art, as much as a trade. Food is simple, but sufficient. Barley porridge, bread, fish, salted or smoked, meat, when available, beef, pork, mutton, cheese, butter, berries, nuts. The main meal is in the evening. After work is done, the family gathers around the fire. Food is served in wooden bowls. Ale is drunk from horns or cups. Then, stories, the old tales of gods and heroes, are told again, keeping the past alive, teaching values, entertaining. Feasts are held for special occasions, weddings, funerals, religious festivals. These are lavish affairs. Meat roasted, mead, a honey wine, flowing freely, music, games, boasting. The blot is a sacrifice to the gods. Animals are slaughtered, their blood sprinkled on altars, and people, their meat, cooked and eaten in a sacred feast. This strengthens the bond between gods and men. The thing, the assembly, meets regularly at the local level. Men gather to settle disputes, to make decisions affecting the community. Laws are recited, cases argued, judgments rendered. Violence is regulated by a system of compensation. Vergild. If a man is killed, his family is owed a price, depending on his status. If paid, the matter is settled. If not, blood feud can result, and the cycle of violence continues. But the society values peace, prosperity, cooperation. Violence is a tool, used when necessary, but not the goal. For centuries, the Norse worshipped the old gods, but by the 10th century, Christianity is spreading north. Christian missionaries enter Scandinavia, some invited by kings who see political advantage in allying with Christian Europe. Others, coming on their own, driven by faith, determined to save pagan souls. The conversion is gradual and often pragmatic. King Harald Bluetooth of Denmark converts around 960, partly from genuine faith, perhaps, but also to forestall a potential invasion by the Holy Roman Emperor, who demands that neighboring peoples accept Christ. Harold raises a runestone at Jelling, proclaiming Harold, who won for himself all of Denmark and Norway, and made the Danes Christian. In Norway, King Olaf Tryggvason converts and then, aggressively, enforces Christianity, destroying pagan temples, executing those who refuse baptism. His methods are brutal, but effective. Olaf the Stout, later known as St. Olaf, continues the work. He dies in battle, fighting rebels, but is venerated as a martyr and becomes the patron saint of Norway. In Sweden, the conversion is slower, more resistance. The temple at Uppsala remains a pagan stronghold for decades, but eventually it too falls. Iceland converts peacefully. Around the year 1000, at the Althing, a debate rages. Should the nation adopt Christianity or keep the old gods? The law speaker, Thorgeir, is given the decision. He retreats under a cloak for a day and night to think and pray, perhaps to both gods and Christ. He emerges and declares that Iceland will become Christian to avoid civil war, to maintain unity. But privately, he says, people can still worship the old gods if they wish. The Christian God slowly replaces Odin and Thor. Churches are built over sacred groves, monasteries established. The runes, once magical symbols, become simple letters. The sagas, written down by Christian monks, preserve the old stories, but with a new lens. Yet the conversion is not total. Folk beliefs persist. People call on Thor in storms, pray to Freya for fertility. The old ways linger in customs, in place names, in the heart. Christianity changes Norse society. It connects them to the wider world of Christian Europe. It brings literacy, art, architecture, new ideas. But it also ends an era. The age of the Vikings is closely tied to the old religion, to the warrior ethos of Valhalla and glory. As the Norse become Christian, they become more settled, more European, less Viking. Not all Vikings settled in England or Iceland. Some went south to France in the early 10th century. Viking raiders, led by a chieftain named Rollo or Hrolf, attack the region around the River Seine. They besiege Paris multiple times. The Frankish kings cannot stop them. Finally, in 911, King Charles the Simple makes a deal. He will grant Rollo a large territory in northern France if Rollo will convert to Christianity, swear fealty, and defend the coast against other Vikings. Rollo agrees. He is baptized, given the title Duke of Normandy. The land will be called Normandy, land of the Northmen. The Vikings in Normandy quickly adapt. They adopt French language, French customs, French feudalism. Within a few generations, they are more French than Norse, but they retain the Viking energy, the ambition, the warrior skill. In 1066, William, Duke of Normandy, descendant of Rollo, claims the English throne. King Edward the Confessor has died, childless. William says Edward promised him the crown. But Harold Godwinson, a powerful English earl, is crowned instead. William is furious. He gathers an army, an invasion fleet, and crosses the English Channel. October 14th, 1066, the Battle of Hastings. Harold's Saxons hold a ridge, shield wall firm, resisting charge after charge of Norman cavalry. The battle rages all day. Then Harold is struck by an arrow in the eye, or so the legend says. He falls, dies. The Saxon army breaks. William wins. He marches to London, is crowned King of England, William the Conqueror. The Norman conquest changes England forever. French becomes the language of the court, of law. The nobility are replaced by Norman lords. Castles are built, stone fortresses, dominating the landscape. English culture blends with Norman, creating something new. The English language will be transformed, absorbing thousands of French words, becoming the language we know today. But this is the work of Vikings, descendants of Rollo. The Normans are Vikings who went south instead of west, and in conquering England, they complete what the great heathen army began. By the mid-11th century, the Viking Age is ending. The Scandinavian kingdoms are consolidating. Kings assert control, build centralized states. Denmark, Norway, Sweden emerge as Christian monarchies, part of European Christendom. The raids cease, trade replaces piracy. The longships still sail, but now carrying goods, not warriors. In 1066, the last great Viking invasion of England occurs. King Harald Hardrada of Norway claims the English throne. He invades with a massive fleet. He is met at Stamford Bridge by King Harold Godwinson, the same Harold who will die at Hastings 3 weeks later. The battle is fierce. The Vikings fight with the old fury, but they are defeated. Harald Hardrada dies in battle, his army shattered. The survivors sail home. In just 24 ships of the 300 they arrived with. It is over. The age of Viking conquest has passed. Why did it end? Several reasons. The kingdoms of Europe grew stronger, better organized, harder to raid. The Scandinavian kingdoms became Christian and part of the European system, no longer outsiders, no longer pagans. The climate changed. The medieval warm period was ending. The seas grew colder, harder to navigate. Greenland's colony will eventually fail. Iceland struggles, and perhaps the Vikings themselves changed, settled, became farmers, Christians, Europeans, the old ways, the old gods, the glory of battle and Valhalla faded, but their legacy endures. What did the Vikings leave behind? Cities, Dublin, York, Waterford, Limerick, founded as Viking trading posts. Now major cities in Ireland and England. Language, hundreds of English words come from Old Norse, place names ending in dash, by Derby, Grimsby, or Thorpe, Scunthorpe, mark Viking settlements. Law, the concept of the jury, may trace back to Norse assemblies where disputes were judged by groups of free men. Exploration, the Vikings were the first Europeans to reach North America 500 years before Columbus. They crossed the Atlantic in open boats, navigating by skill and courage alone. Trade, the Viking trade networks connected east and west. They brought silver from the Islamic world to Scandinavia and beyond. They traded furs, amber, slaves, across vast distances. Art, the distinctive Norse style, intricate animal designs, interlaced patterns, influenced art. Across medieval Europe, literature, the sagas, preserve stories of a lost world. They influenced later writers, Tolkien, Wagner, countless others, drew on Norse mythology. The very word Viking has become synonymous with adventure, with fearlessness, with the sea. We remember them as raiders, warriors, and they were, but they were also explorers, traders, poets, craftsmen, farmers. They were people like us, seeking a better life, seeking glory, seeking meaning in a harsh and uncertain world. They remind us that courage matters, that exploration can lead to discovery, that the horizon is not a limit, but an invitation. As we reach the end of our journey through the Viking Age, let us return to where we began, to the fjords of Norway, to the longhouses where fire crackles and stories are told. Imagine yourself by that fire, the warmth on your face, the smell of wood smoke, the sound of the sea. In the distance, an old skald begins to recite a tale of long ago, of dragons and heroes, of gods and giants. His voice rises and falls. In the ancient rhythms, the words flow, like water, like wind. Outside, the northern lights dance across the sky, green and blue, curtains of light, shimmering, the aurora borealis. The Vikings believed these were reflections of the armor of the Valkyries riding across the heavens. The stars are bright, uncountable, the same stars that guided Viking ships across unknown seas to distant shores. Somewhere out there, a longship still sails, in memory, in imagination, its dragon prow cutting through waves, its crew singing old songs of home. The Viking Age is long past. The warriors sleep in barrows beneath the earth. The ships have rotted to dust. The gods are silent, but the stories remain. The spirit endures. The call of the sea, the lure of the horizon, the courage to venture into the unknown. These are eternal, and so let these images, these stories, carry you into sleep, into dreams, dreams of distant shores, of dragon ships, of northern lights, of sagas yet to be told. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly, in and out. Feel the warmth of the fire, the comfort of the longhouse, the peace of the ending day. You are safe, you are warm, you are ready for deep, healing, restorative sleep. Let go of all thoughts, all worries, all the cares of the modern world. Drift back to a simpler time, to a world of myth and legend, an endless possibility. Sleep now and dream of the Vikings, of their courage, their curiosity, their indomitable spirit. Good night, sleep well, and may your dreams carry you to shores unknown and wonders unimagined. The sagas have ended, but the fire burns on. Listen to it crackle. Feel its warmth. Let it lull you into deeper rest. The wind whispers outside the longhouse, a gentle sound, like the sea, like distant voices, singing songs of home. The northern lights still dance across the sky, green, blue, purple, shimmering, eternal. And you drift like a ship on calm waters, floating, peaceful, safe. The Viking Age is over, but the spirit lives in every person who dares to dream, to explore, to venture beyond the known world. You carry that spirit within you, that courage, that curiosity, that refusal to be bound by fear. Sleep now, deep, peaceful, restorative sleep. Let the fire warm you. Let the stories comfort you. Let the dreams carry you away. Good night, brave voyager. May your rest be sweet and your dreams be filled with wonders.